Hey, this is Senator Justin Reedy coming to you, getting close to the end of the fifth week of the 2026 General Assembly session. This week we had Governor Moore's State of the State address. It's an annual address given by every governor to talk about the issues before the state, their agenda and goal and priorities for the coming year and the legislative session in particular. Governor Moore started the speech off with an appeal about his attempt to redistrict the state of Maryland to further gerrymander our state. The Governor Moore plan is to take away the last dissenting voice in our congressional delegation that's not a Democrat in the name of saving democracy, which I always find somewhat amusing. However, because the Senate has essentially said we're not moving forward, Governor Moore had to acknowledge that they're at a little bit of an impasse. But I thought it was really interesting. His speech was bookended, start and finish, by basically all about DC style political wrangling. It was a running for president kind of speech. That's where his focus has been, clearly. His focus has been on national profile. It's why he did the big redistricting push that I think we're going to be able to turn back here and not let it succeed. It's even how he got in trouble talking about the Maryland flag. He was on a podcast talking about Maryland in general, and he kind of rambled about the Maryland flag. And I don't actually think he was calling for us to get rid of the flag. I think he was talking about sort of what he views as the conflicts in the Maryland flag. I don't agree with his characterization of it. But my point is, it's all about him just sort of trying to build this national profile. It was 30 minutes into the speech, which was about a 55-minute speech. It was 30 minutes into the speech before he even mentioned energy or energy prices at all, much less cost of living issues. It was so full of sort of federal bashing, Trump bashing, blaming the federal government and the president for the problems we're having. And it really wasn't about any sort of solutions or plans until we got to about that point in the speech. Then his energy plans that he's talking about basically there's no new solutions from him. It's more talking about renewables, investing in renewables, getting more low and moderate income people onto solar. And while some of those things may have their place, offshore wind certainly doesn't. It's a total boondoggle. But some of those things may have a little bit of a place. But he did actually touch on natural gas very briefly, because a lot of the Democrats in the General Assembly, particularly the House of Delegates, don't want to breathe about natural gas. We need more natural gas energy production. But his plan was sort of more warmed over, regurgitating of liberal talking points with a little smattering about affordability in there. I thought it was telling that in the plan, he really just kind of doubled down on what's failed. More talk about government investing in growing jobs. More talk about investments. Of course, that's your money. The governor bragged about, and every governor does this to be fair, but he bragged about a balanced budget, proposing another balanced budget here, and how our fiscal house has gotten back more in order. He was blind to the idea that you've been the reason our fiscal house is in order, because he's raised every tax and fee under the sun. There's no accountability. I've never seen, well, I take that back. It's since Governor O'Malley, I haven't seen a governor so committed to the failed economic and fiscal policies. And they just, keep doubling down. The governor's speech was full of and these speeches typically are pointing out, anecdotal, specific people who've done wonderful things in our state. And of course, we all appreciate that. But a lot of his focus, anytime he talked about lifting people up and helping people, it's all about how the government's going to be here. We're going to be here to take care of every Marylander. And I sat there and went, as you know, we talked last week about DDA. There are people in our community we need to help take care of. But most of us don't need the government to take care of us. We need the government to stop taking so much of our hard-earned money and kind of get out of the way and just make sure things are safe and the rules of the road are observed. That was just really interesting that Marylanders are the ones who have to keep taking care of our big government. That's really what's going on. And there was, of course, nothing about any kind of relief there. So I was, as you might imagine, underwhelmed by the speech. And what I thought, again, what we really need is and what we have as Republicans, the Senate Republican Congress, we have a robust energy plan that's going to help us bring down prices if we could get support in General Assembly to go along. Let's pause that and get rid of that Empower program that causes your bill to have about $21 a month on average of a fee right there. It's a program that has not worked for its intention, could very easily be paused right now There's only a small piece of that average $21 that goes to anything we've spent money on. Let's get that paused. That's a little short-term thing. Wouldn't change the world overnight, but it would be a big help. We instead of one thing he touted about energy relief was that we're going to put $100 million into energy relief for ratepayers. You're like, whoa, $100 million. Well, last year they did about $200 million, and it was everybody got 2 payments of $40 each. That was your relief. This time it'll be probably a $40 payment. They're taking that out of that SEEF fund, a Strategic Energy Investment Fund. What he didn't say in the speech is that fund has about $700 million in it, and he's taking about $300 million of those dollars to help balance the budget that he can't seem to get balanced even after he's raised your taxes so much. So maybe we could just take all of that $300 million and make that rate relief. It would help a little more. What we also need is his Public Service Commission. The people he's appointed have failed to hold utilities in check. They have the ability to tell utilities you can't make as much return on some of the things that you've appealed on. Utilities of course, need to be able to make some profit and some rate of return on the investments they make, but the Public Service Commission has allowed things. They could have restricted some of that rate of return, and they generally haven't. They could have done more on executive compensation either, which is another thing the Democrats throw out. We should just limit executive compensation with these utilities. Well, that might be an okay idea. I think there's some question about government limiting those things. I'm not saying that's a terrible idea, because they are public utilities in the sense that they serve the public, and we've given them kind of a lot of a monopoly. But again, it's little Band-Aid things, not really getting at the main part of the problem. And then finally, we need to get natural gas plants back online now. And the governor did, as I said, mention natural gas in his speech very quickly. But there's been a couple little things that we've done in the General Assembly in the last year to try to incentivize a little more natural gas creation, but they still put tons of requirements and layers on it they want it to be a natural gas plant, can come to Maryland, but it has to be able to be converted to nitrogen in the future. And they won't guarantee them enough rate of return to want a business to come on and invest in a plant here. There's a lot of things we could do to really stimulate energy production to help bring the price down if we have the courage to do it. So that's kind of where I want to leave you, is that we had a speech this week from the governor setting out his vision for the state, and it's more of the same, candidly. And they're not rolling back any of these massive tax increases that have hammered working families. My focus and our focus, Senate Republicans, is going to be real alternatives, as I mentioned, on energy and other important issues, and holding the government accountable for the money they already get, which he also didn't mention, all the strings of audits that he's had, audit findings that his departments have had that we're trying to get to the bottom of. So that's going to be our focus, is not just opposing what they want to do, but in some cases saying we have the plan. If you'll work with us, we can really make a difference for the people of Maryland. So I'll leave you with that. I appreciate your time. Thank you to everybody that came out to District 5 and Carroll County night earlier this week. We had a great time. Hope you have a wonderful Valentine's Day with your loved one, and look forward to talking to you next week. Thanks.